Welcome to Journey of Enlightenment. I am your host, Dr. Roger Gopaul. Our program focuses on Vedic literature, culture, and philosophy. Today, I begin a series of talks on the Gita titled Unveiling the Bhagavad-Gita. We will interpret each verse and apply it to our lives. Let's begin our session with a story. There was once a mighty king. He was renowned throughout all the kingdoms for the power of his army. Many other kingdoms fell or surrendered to the might of this king. But pride and arrogance filled the heart of the king. His subjects were fearful of his temper, and no one dared question the words of the king. One day, the king looked into his grand mirror, only to realize it was dirty. He called the royal janitor to clean the mirror. The following day, the mirror seemed to be even filthier than before. The enraged king commanded the janitor to put more effort into cleaning the mirror. The helpless janitor put all efforts that he can into his task. As time went by, the king noticed the mirror becoming more and more soiled whenever he looked at it. The king was awfully puzzled. One day, a wise old sage visited the kingdom. The king heard of the great brilliance of the sage. Immediately, the king summoned the old sage to the castle. "Tell me, O sage," the king said, "for many years I have commanded the best janitors to clean my filthy mirror, yet they are unable to do so." The sage looked calmly at the king, and in a soft, sweet tone, the sage responded, "O king, the dirt that you see is not in the mirror. It is on your face. Clean the filth from your face, and the reflection in the mirror will soon be clean." Too many times, we fall into the ritual of blaming others, or even blaming things, and sometimes we blame God for the situations that we face in life. How many times have we said, "God, why are you doing this to me?" Or, "Someone else is at fault," or, "Why did this thing happen to me?" The story that I just narrated provides an important lesson on self-reflection, analyzing ourselves. Like the king in the story, the problem was not the dirt on the mirror, but rather the dirt on the face of the king, the dirt on our faces, the dirt in our hearts, the dirt in our minds. We sometimes go about life trying to fix everyone, fix everything. We try to manage others in terms of their behavior, what they should do, what they should not do. We try to control everyone around, but yet we have no control over ourselves. We try to know everyone. We try to know everything. Yet we do not even know ourselves. Whenever something goes wrong for us, we are quick to make excuses for our own flaws. We are quick to make excuses for our own sake. An alcoholic, as an example, might blame the pressures of life for his addiction. A thief may blame poverty for his crime. A wife abuser may blame the victim for his uncontrolled anger. An evolved person does not and will not go about blaming the world for their circumstances. The story signifies that many of the issues we face in life are projections of our own minds. We tend to get angry because of traffic, yet we have no control over the traffic situation. We only have control over our response to the situations that we face in life. Let us not become the person who is tossed to and fro by the external elements of life that is outside of our own control. We have no power over the heat of the sun or over the effects of the rain, but we do have the power to choose how we shield or guard ourselves when such conditions arise. A man of wisdom looks at himself first. We do not start by cleaning the mirror, we start by cleaning ourselves. We are to go within and discover ourselves. The Bhagavad-Gita is a guide towards self-discovery. Gita challenges us to reflect on ourselves, our thoughts, and our actions. The essence of Gita is that we are all responsible for the decisions and actions we take in this life. We are the architects of our destiny. We are ultimately responsible for the actions and the consequences of those actions. Before taking that journey into the battlefield of Kurushatra, where the Gita unfolded, let us visit the modern city of Kurushatra, where the memories of the Mahabharata are very much alive today. Kurushatra is a city in the Indian state of Haryana. It is also known as a Dharmakshatra, which means holy place, and as the land of the Bhagavad-Gita. According to Puranas, Kurushatra is a region named after King Kuru, the ancestor of the Kauravas and Pandavas in the Kuru kingdom as depicted in the great epic Mahabharata. The Kurukshetra war of the Mahabharata is believed to have taken place here in this very ancient land. Tanishwar, whose urban area is merged with Kurukshetra, is a major pilgrimage site with many locations attributed to the Mahabharata. In the Vedas, Kurukshetra is described not as a city but as a region. The boundaries of Kurukshetra correspond roughly to the central and western parts of the state of Haryana and the southern Punjab. According to Vamana Purana, King Kuru chose land at the banks of the ancient Saraswati River for embedding spirituality with 8 virtues. 1. Austerity. 2. Truth. 3. Forgiveness. 4. Kindness. 5. Purity. 6. Charity. 7. Devotion. And 8. Conduct. Lord Vishnu was very impressed with the acts of King Kuru and blessed him with 2 boons. First, that this land forever will be known as a holy land. After his name, the name of the king, it was named Kurukshetra, the land of Kuru. Secondly, that anyone dying on this holy land will go to heaven. Kurukshetra is an important Hindu pilgrimage destination, and there are several pilgrimage sites surrounding the city. Let's visit some of those sites. Some of the religious sites are: 1. The Brahma Sarovar. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people come to take a holy bath at Brahma Sarovar on the occasion of the sacred no moon day that happens on a Monday, and also on days where there are solar eclipses. The devotees believe that a bath in the holy Sarovar frees all sins and also frees them from the cycle of birth and death. The Sarovar is one of Asia's largest man-made ponds. Hindu genealogy registers are kept here. The Sanihit Sarovar, another pond. The pond is believed to be the meeting point of 7 sacred Saraswatis. The Sarovar, according to popular belief, contains sacred water. Having a bath in the waters of the tank on the day of the night of complete darkness or on the day of an eclipse bestows blessings equivalent to performing the most sacred yagnas. Jyotisa, the famous site where Bhagavad-Gita was delivered to Arjuna under the tree. The tree of that time is witness to the birth of the Gita. Even to this day, that spot is actually known as the Gita Janmabhoomi, the birthplace of the Bhagavad-Gita. Kurushatra Panorama and Science Center is a more modern architecture, a mural depiction of the entire Mahabharata war. The Dharohar Museum, a museum about the tradition and cultural depiction of Haryana, located in Kurushatra University, is also there for a very sacred and entertaining visit. There's a famous Shiva Mandir, the Mahadev Mandir. It is believed that Lord Krishna and the Pandavas entered into this mandir where the Pandavas prayed to Lord Shiva at this temple before the beginning of the battle. Let us now begin an in-depth study of the Srimad Bhagavad-Gita. Our session today begins with an introduction to the context, content, and configuration of this holy book, the Bhagavad-Gita. The Bhagavad-Gita, it actually means the song of God. A Gita is a composition of spiritual wisdom which masterfully captures the conversation between the teacher and the disciple. There are many Gitas which might be quite a puzzlement to many, but there are Gitas known as one, the Ram Gita. The Ram Gita depicts Sri Ram in the role of the ideal teacher, where he dispels the ignorance of his dear and devoted brother Lakshman. There are some commentators who propose that the Ram Gita actually captures the dialogue between Sri Ram and his devotee Hanuman. Another example of the Gita, or a Gita, is the Ramana Gita. There was a saint that lived in South India around the 1950s. His name was Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi. The Ramana Gita is based on the teachings of Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi. The Bhagavad-Gita, which we are embarking on our study, refers to the inspiring and thought-provoking dialogue between the Supreme Consciousness, Lord Krishna, and man, Arjuna. Despite the existence of many Gitas, it is noteworthy that the popular use of the word Gita is usually in reference to the Bhagavad Gita, as we will be doing in our course of study. Indeed, this speaks to the prominence and impression of the Bhagavad Gita to humankind. The Gita was revealed in the battlefield of Kurushatra approximately 5,000 years ago. The Gita forms the philosophical aspect of the remarkable epic, the Mahabharata. Mahabharata, the world's largest literary classic, is ascribed to the sage Vyas. In the state of divine meditation and reflection, the omniscient narrator, Sage Vyas, recited the events of the Mahabharata, which were vigilantly chronicled by Lord Ganesh. The Mahabharata comprises almost 100,000 verses, which successfully captures all aspects of human thought, word, and behavior. The pivotal premise of this eminent epic is a rivalry between the royal Pandavas and the royal Kauravas, two competing interests, but yet one royal family. The Pandava brothers were righteous and honorable. Mahabharata focuses on the lives of the 5 Pandavas. Their names were Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva. In contrast to the cousins of the righteous Pandavas, the Kauravas were 100 brothers, infamous for their depraved and ignoble characteristics. The eldest Kaurava, Duryodhana, was intoxicated by greed and envy. He despised the Pandava brothers in all forms. With wicked intent consuming his heart, Duryodhana challenged Yudhishthira to a game of dice. Motivated by his immoral senses, Duryodhana deceitfully won the game, which defrauded the Pandavas of everything they possessed. The Pandavas were banished from the kingdom and exiled into the forest for 13 years. Duryodhana ruled over the kingdom during this dark period. At the end of the 13th year, the kingdom was to be returned to the Pandavas. Alas, Duryodhana failed to respect the terms and conditions of the agreement. Adamant was the attitude of Duryodhana towards retaining the kingdom. Battle was now inevitable. The battle line was drawn between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, the forces of good versus evil. Arjuna, one of the Pandava brothers, approached Lord Krishna to join with him in this epic battle. The same request was made by Duryodhana. Lord Krishna, in his infinite wisdom, proposed to assist both fractions. The army of Krishna will be given to one side, and an unarmed Krishna will be on the other side. Duryodhana, in his greed and irrationality, took the army, while Arjuna worshipfully received the Lord. The stage is now set for battle. Thousands of commentaries have been written on the Bhagavad-Gita, with considerably varying opinions on the essence of this divine masterpiece. Some commentators interpret the philosophy of the Bhagavad-Gita as a reference to the clear distinction or dualism between the self, our Atman, which is our divine nature, to that of Brahman, the universal consciousness. Another school of thought interprets the philosophy of the Bhagavad-Gita as non-dualism, no distinction. There is no difference between the Atman, the divine self, and Brahman, the universal consciousness. Regardless of one's theological and philosophical persuasion, the Gita has activated the imagination and intellect of many scholars, spiritual seekers, and sages. The Gita is able to provide guidance to all of humanity. The philosophy of the Gita transcends the measure of time, place, and people because it discusses the fundamental issues affecting human existence. Humankind's pursuit of happiness, yearnings for inner tranquility, and aspirations for self-realization have remained persistent since the dawn of civilization. While the world has modernized, these rudimentary attributes of our lives remain constant. The universality of Gita makes it astutely relevant to the modern age, any stratum of society, and to any culture. The Gita expounds on the goodness of the Pandavas and the evil-mindedness of the Kauravas. The positive and negative tendencies illustrated by the opposing forces in the Gita narrative reflect comparable qualities within each of us, each individual. The battleground represents the battlefield of life, the struggle between the higher self and the lower self. Humankind is confronted with a greater army of negative inclinations versus the seemingly weaker army of the positive forces. Before the commencement of the battle, Lord Krishna positioned the chariot between the armies of good and evil, between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. The Supreme Consciousness remains as an untouched observer to the dramas of the world. The extreme opposites of pain and pleasure, joy and sorrow, have no effect on bliss consciousness. Self-realization is existence in the perpetual state of equipoise, unaffected by the pendulum of opposites in this world. The mind can only gain quietude when it surrenders to the divine consciousness, transcending the experiences of the outer world. The Gita provides the ultimate insight into the revelation of the Supreme Self, represented in the scene of Krishna and Arjuna on the glorious chariot. The horses symbolize the sense organs, and the chariot itself signals a person's body. The charioteer is the intellect taking control of the reins, which is the mind. The mind, guided by the intellect, has power over the senses. The rider is the individual, dependent on the intellect as a conduit towards the realization of the absolute reality. The mind is subtler than the body. The intellect is subtler than the mind. The divine consciousness is the substratum of all. The Gita therefore implies that the quest for humankind should be an inward journey, from the least subtle state to the deeper levels of our subtlest consciousness. The Gita is the essence of the Upanishads, unfolded in 18 chapters. There is a systematic and rational flow of thought from one chapter to the other, thereby indicating an evolutionary progression of concepts integrating into a theoretical point of singularity, the absolute reality. The 700 verses contained in the chapters of the Gita encapsulate the supreme maxim of the Upanishads, that thou art. This truism, this principle, is the nucleus of Advaita Vedanta, the philosophy that Brahman alone is the absolute reality, as proficiently expounded upon by our revered Guru, Sri Adi Shankaracharya. Brahman is existence, consciousness, bliss, Sat, Chit, Ananda. The world of experiences and objects are mere illusions. Advaita Vedanta makes no distinction between the Supreme Self and Brahman. The Self is accordingly Sat, Chit, Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. That thou art. I am Brahman. As the study of the Gita begins, the following mantra, denoted in the Upanishads, should fill the hearts of the teachers and the students. Om. May the Divine protect both of us, teacher and learner alike. Together, may we enjoy the knowledge. May we apply this knowledge together. May our learning be luminous. May there always be love. Let there be peace. Peace, peace. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Let those who desire the ultimate knowledge of the self, the all-pervading consciousness, dive deep into the ocean of wisdom found in the glorious Song of God, the Bhagavad-Gita. Namaste. Thank you for joining me on this special program as we enter the world of the Bhagavad-Gita.